Yes, sir.
Oh, my head.
Position.
What's going on?
He's been neutralised.
What?
Look, I haven't killed him.
Fuck.
What do you mean you wanted him dead?
Dead?
Look, he's not dead.
This
I
is...
don't think that's a good idea. He's been tied up, he's been indisposed, he's not able to battle anymore, okay? So you don't have to worry about him lowering your
Fuck have you
reputation.
done?
Well, no, sir, I haven't found it yet. I haven't been... Well, obviously I'm going to keep looking.
Found what?
Sorry. Shouldn't take that tone with you. I'm very grateful for all you've done for me. But I haven't found it yet. I will keep looking. I will let you know when I find it.
What are you looking for?
Until then, just stay put, okay? Just sit tight. I'll have the news you're looking for soon. Okay? Good. I don't even know if he still has it anymore.
Red? What are you doing here?
Oh. Morning, sleepyhead. How's the head, yeah? Feeling alright? Yeah. Bet you're a bit sore, aren't you? Sorry. I used a bit too much force, didn't I? We've been meaning to have a talk like this, haven't we? It's been a long time coming. Especially considering you're the reason I'm here in the first place.
Look, I'm sorry.
You know, if my bosses weren't as forgiving as me, you'd be in a much worse situation. Consider yourself lucky that you only got hit in the face, okay?
What are you doing here, Red?
Now you know why I'm here, don't you?
No, I don't.
No? What do you mean, no? You think you deserve to be in the Pokemon Premier League after that performance you put in last week? Are you actually stupid?
It was one bad performance.
Look who I'm talking to, I guess. Basically, I think it's time that the Solihull Skarmoors get taken over by new management.
New management? Okay? What do you mean?
Yeah. You've been removed. You've been sacked. And now this idiot has to be the caretaker.
You can't do this.
What? You think you're in any position to talk back to me right now? You know what? I think it's time you had another little sleep.
Red?
Don't you?
What are you... No! Alright, bitches, here's what's up. OnesieBanette got swept 6-0 by a Corviknight last week. He shit the bed. And as such, he's been fired. Axed. He's out of here. And I'm in interim charge until the end of the season. I'm not here to be a nice guy. I'm not here to make friends with all the other coaches. No more Frenergy. No more sad, pathetic loser who was here last season. I'm here to win. And if I have to be a cunt to do it, I'm going to be a cunt. And the first person I'm going to be a cunt to is Q the Costa Rican. Now Q's team, it's a bit of a dick. Iron Valiant, Cinderace, Latios, Zarude. Lots of things that are just really annoying to deal with. But I know how to beat this. I know exactly how to beat this. And if you're not interested in this team builder, fuck off then. Use the timestamps on screen and piss off to the battle. I don't want you. But if you want to hear a little bit of genius, stick around. First up, we have an Ursaluna Blood Moon with a Chople Berry, with Blood Moon, Earth Power, Moonlight and Calm Mind. The reason this thing is here is because it can take one hit from any Pokemon on this team and kill something. It hits Blood Moon, it does massive damage. Chople Berry helps it to take a hit from Iron Valiant, helps it to take a hit from Cinderace, and just kills them back. It's that simple, nothing more to it. Next up we have Tornadus Therian with a Choice Scarf. My opponent has an Iron Valiant and a Cinderace, two Pokemon that love having Choice Scarfs of their own, so Tornadus is able to get speed control versus those massive threats. We have Knockoff, U-Turn and Heat Wave as coverage moves, and Bleak Wind as the main stab. Makes sense, hits everything on the team, enough said. Next up we have Terra Captain this week, Arboliva, who's Terra Fire, with leftovers. Terra Blast, Earth Power, Leech Seed, Protect, and Seed Sower. This thing's here to whittle the opponent's team down into range of Tornadus and the other Pokemon later on. But this thing is here to be a prick, Terra Fire allows it to take on Zarude really well, allows it to take on Revavroom very well, allows it to take on Cinderace very well. It removes all of its natural counters and things it struggles with and turns them into an opportunity to set up a Leech Seed and whittle the opponent down. Makes sense, and it's got Terra Blast, Earth Power, and Leech Seed just to do as much damage as possible. This thing's here to be a prick, and I'm here to let it be a prick. Next up, we have a Donphan with Heavy Duty Boots, High Horsepower, Ice Shard, Rapid Spin, and Smackdown. There's quite a lot of opportunities for my opponent to get Stealth Rocks on the field. There's a Kleavor, there's a Swampert. That's all you need. There's also potential for Toxic Spikes from Revavroom. So Donphan is here just to take a hit. It also helps with Cinderace, which could go potentially Terra Electric this week. Yeah, makes sense. It's a Donphan. It's gonna do what Donphan do. We then have a Mienshao with a Life Orb. No surprises there. Close combat, knockoff, U-turn and taunt. Taunt in case of a Swampert lead and I can stop it getting Stealth Rocks off turn 1. Every time I bring this Mienshao in, something's taking a massive hit. Whether that be a close combat, whether that be a knockoff, whether that be a U-turn. Something is getting hurt. And I might have the opportunity to Terra Fighting if the opportunity calls for it, but this thing is here to just punch holes, and that's exactly what it's going to fucking do. It's a Mienshao. It uses Life Orb and Regenerator to keep itself healthy and power itself up. It's good. It's a good mon. It's here to do good mon things. And the last Pokemon is a physically defensive Slowking with a Colbur Berry and Chilly Reception, Trick Room, Yawn and Scold. It's here to switch into Latios, it's here to switch into Iron Valiant, it's here to switch into Cinderace, and it's here to just turn the tables on them. Regenerator keeps itself healthy, Colbur Berry helps it take knockoffs, Trick Room helps it to get the speed control against the faster Pokemon if necessary, and Yawn is here for extra status. It's here to be a bulky pivot that switches into the offensive things on my opponent's side of the field. It also allows me to take potential knockoffs from Zarude if it shows up. But yeah, Slowking is here just to be a bitch, switch into my other Pokemon and hit them hard. That's all it is. Switch into Slowking, chilly on out. Simple team building, effective team building, do what you need to do. Be a prick with Arboliva, get chip on what you need to do, and finish it off with the fast offensive threats. This game is not hard if you just don't overthink it and play like a prick, like my former associate did. And I'm here to prove to you that you can win just by not being stupid.
Well, another week, another Pokemon Premier League match for me to sink my teeth into. Greetings and salutations every single one of you from CobraCon and beyond. My name is Raihan and I'm going to be your commentator for this week's fantastic Pokemon Premier League action. But, as always, I am not alone. I am joined by the Master of Dragons, the King of Kanto's Elite Four, Champion Lance. How are you doing today, my friend?
Must you insist on calling me your friend every single time?
What's wrong with that? I thought we were growing a little bit of a connection here, Lance.
You thought wrong. Regardless, I am very excited for this game. OnesieBanette versus Q the Costa Rican. A player who got 6-0 swept last week versus a player who got a very resounding win last week. Onesie has to come out here swinging, otherwise things aren't going to go very well for him, are they?
I couldn't have put it any better myself, Lance. How do you think OnesieBanette's Regenerator Core is going to stand up to Q the Costa Rican's hard-hitting threats like Iron Valiant and Cinderace?
Both of these players are very experienced players, so I would imagine they both have some kind of a countermeasure against the other team's threats. However, I would say that Onesie does look like he has a very favourable matchup here. There are a few Pokemon like Tornadus that look fantastic against Q. Whether he's able to pull off a strategy and get the win, however, is a very different story.
Very good insight as always, Lance. Score predictions before we get into it?
I do not make predictions, Raihan. I simply observe and call out what I see.
Ah, you're no fun. Anyway, it looks like both the combatants are ready, so let's head down courtside for the Pokemon Premier League Week 2 match between OnesieBanette and Q the Costa Rican. Let's go! And the battle gets underway as Q the Costa Rican leads off with House in the Swampert. And Onesie leads off with R906 the Mienshao. A fairly standard lead matchup here. A very standard lead matchup indeed. Swampert is notoriously a bit of a brick wall when it comes to offensive strategies, so any kind of chip that this Mienshao could get onto it with a U-turn or a knockoff could be crucial for some of Onesie's late game threats, especially if he wants to go Terra Fire on his Arboliva. Well, Onesie's Mienshao is going to go for a taunt, predicting the Swampert to go for some stealth rocks and trying to prevent them turn one. But this Swampert is not going to stealth rock. It's going to go for a flip turn and do a considerable amount of damage to this Mienshao. That looks like an offensive Mienshao if I've ever seen one. But that is a fantastic turn for Q, getting him momentum and getting free chip onto this Mienshao. I'm concerned about the amount of damage that flip turn did to this Mienshao. Normally, Swamperts are known to be physically defensive, but that one doing that much damage has got me a little bit concerned this might be some sort of adamant offensive Swampert. It certainly did look like a beefy amount of damage, didn't it? Indeed. I just hope that the lack of bulk doesn't come back to bite Q later on in the game. Well, Q's going to use that free flip turn momentum to bring out Gale, the Latios, who, when we're looking at Onesie's side, he does not seem to have too many switch-ins to it. This Latios could be a big problem moving forward. Onesie's most natural answer to this Latios appears to be Slowking. However, things could get quite dicey if we see either a Calm Mind or a Luster Purge special defense drop. This could be pretty nasty for Onesie here. Quite rightly, Onesie's Mienshao's not going to want to stay in here, and he's going to switch out into, as you called it, the Slowking. Yuko P's going to be hitting the field for the first time in this game. As Gale the Latios goes for Trick. That's not great news for Slowking here, is it? Giving a Slowking a choice scarf is going to severely hamper its ability to check this Latios. All it's going to be able to do is click Chilly Reception every time it hits the field, meaning it can be worn down by chip damage and entry hazards. Very good move from Q the Costa Rican. Well, Q's actually going to be the one to switch out the Latios first, potentially worried about some kind of a Thunder Wave, as House in the Swampert comes in to block it. But Yuko P is going to predict that and go straight for a Chilly Reception, regaining momentum and allowing Onesie a bit more of a foothold in the game. Potentially a bit of an over-prediction there from Q, as this Slowking was always simply going to try and regain momentum. And that momentum has indeed been regained, because R906, the Mienshao's back out here, proccing its own regenerator, allowing it to stay alive a bit longer and get some crucial chip onto this Swampert. Pretty decent move there from Onesie, if I do say so. Not really. A little bit standard, if we're being totally honest with ourselves. Chilly Reception is Slowking's bread and butter. Well, bread and butter is a staple meal after all. What are you talking about? I'm probably just hungry. And Mienshao is going to do just what we predicted. Fire off a U-turn, chip this Swampert down, reveal to Q that it is Life Orb, and switch on out, getting that regenerator procced. And the obvious choice to take an attack from this Swampert is going to be Setup MP the Arboliva, as Housing goes for an Earthquake, which is going to do very, very little to that Arboliva. A very decent switch from Onesie. And Arboliva's Seed Sower ability is going to activate, covering both sides of the field in a grassy terrain. Now that could be a bit of a double-edged sword for Onesie. Whilst Arboliva appreciates the grassy terrain recovery, so too does Swampert. And giving Swampert extra residual health recovery every turn makes it incredibly difficult to take down. If Onesie wants to bust through this mudfish, he's going to have to think about doing it a different way. Well, Swampert's going to choose to go for the chip damage and go for a flip turn here. Getting a little bit of damage off onto Arboliva and switching out a dodge. And Q's going to send out Tadpole the Electros to take a hit from this Arboliva. As it goes for a Leech Seed and misses, that means Electros is going to come out of this exchange with no damage on it whatsoever. Not a great outcome for Arboliva and Onesie here. And Electros is going to immediately fire off a Bomb Switch, getting a little bit of chip damage onto Arboliva before switching back out. And it's going to be Karlak the Cinderace that hits the field in order to offensively pressure this Arboliva, as it goes for a Leech Seed to gradually whittle down Cinderace's health. Lance, what do you make of that play by Q? Q is very much on the back foot at the moment. This Arboliva is simply sitting in and recovering its health and getting very gradual chip damage off on everything. Q's only option here is to go out into something that forces the Arboliva to terrastalize. Once it's terrestrialized into a fire type, then Swampert is able to hit it more effectively, and the options to deal damage to it become a lot more varied. Until then, Onesie is happy to play the slow game, so Q is going to have to settle for cycling around with momentum moves until Onesie makes a slip-up. Well, we're not going to see the momentum move this time as Q opts to hard switch out into Gale the Latios, presumably to threaten out Arboliva with Luster Purges and Draco Meteors. But Onesie's going to take the bait here and go for the Terra Fire to try and resist the hit from that Cinderace, and that's going to make it more prone to Swampert in the future. And Arboliva's going to want to go for an Earth Power, which of course is not going to affect the levitating Latios. That's a fantastic prediction by Q, and it seizes him momentum in the match once more, and allows him to get off a big hit with this Latios. And Latios is going to fire off a powerful Luster Purge, doing about 50% to this Arboliva. It doesn't get the special defense drop, but then Arboliva's going to go for a Leech Seed and miss, meaning Arboliva wastes its turn, does not get extra residual healing, does not chip down this Latios, and puts Onesie in a very awkward position right now. That's a bit of an untimely miss, but it's not the end of the world. While Onesie's not going to get any extra chip damage onto this Latios, he's still able to get a little bit of extra healing via leftovers, and crucially, has not been hit with the special defense drop. And Setup MP, the Arboliva's going to go for a Protect, presumably to get more chip damage off. And Gale's going to go for a Luster Purge here. Another thing to keep in mind for this matchup is that Luster Purge only has 8 power points, meaning that Onesie might be able to stall them out and prevent this Latios from getting defense drops on some of his crucial defensive targets. And Latios is going to go for another Luster Purge, trying to fish for a special defense drop. It's not going to get it, but it is going to trigger the Seed Sower ability once again. And Arboliva's going to go for another Leech Seed, but this time it does connect with Latios, and it is now in position to start whittling down this thing. And it's going to be able to keep itself healthy due to the plethora, the multitude of health restoring effects it's got going on, as it gets not 1, not 2, but 3 chunks of health back on this turn. This Arboliva is just a life-stealing monster. I could imagine being quite frustrated if I were in Q the Costa Rican's shoes. All the damage that I'm doing to this monster is just getting completely restored every turn. And Q's not going to allow that Latios to sit there suffering from Leech Seed, and they are going to switch on out into Tadpole the Electros, hopefully to try and knock off those leftovers. And Arboliva's going to go for Protect, presumably just to try and restore a bit more health. This Arboliva's playing very safe, in a way that Onesie doesn't need to take many risks. And Q's Electros is going to go for a Volt Switch, doing a little bit more chip damage, allowing it to switch back out. And we're going to see the return of Gale the Latios coming in here, as Setapan opts to go for Terra Blast here. And Terra Blast Fire is not going to be doing much to a Latios, but, as we mentioned earlier, it is very crucial chip damage for some of Onesie's late game threats to come in and clean up afterwards. And another Protect comes out here from this Arboliva, just soaking up that residual health restoration, as we see another Luster Purge coming out from this Latios, as it's whittling down its own PP quite substantially. If it keeps this up, it's not going to have many more left to use. This Arboliva set is causing Q a lot of problems. He does not have anything that wants to reliably switch in, and Onesie's not in a position to need to make any predictions. So Q is just taking damage every single time for free. Well, after terrorizing Q for the majority of the match so far, Onesie's going to switch out Arboliva and go out into Moretu, the Tornadus-Therian, who hits the field for the first time, and is immediately tasked with taking the Luster Purge, which is going to do a large chunk of damage and nearly takes it out. It's a critical hit, and Moretu survives on 7 hit points. A very, very big hit from Latios here, and a little bit of headway for Q the Costa Rican. That was a very timely switch out from Onesie, as he goes for a U-turn here just to chip down this Latios a little bit further. And that is the problem with Regenerator cores. Even though you get a little bit of chip on them, they're just going to keep tormenting you by switching in and out. And Yuko P, the Slowking, who of course has been tricked to Choice Scarf, comes in. And Q predicts that and goes for a Thunderbolt, which does just under half health. And gets the paralysis. 2 huge turns of hacks for Q the Costa Rican that might just shift the game in his direction. Oh, the irony of being a Choice Scarfed Slowking that's paralyzed. And Onesie's going to opt to let Slowking take another, which doesn't quite take it out, leaving it on 21 hit points, as Slowking does not get fully paralyzed, is able to act, and tells another terrifyingly terrible joke, allowing it to switch out freely and bring in another Pokemon to finish off this Latios if necessary. And Onesie's recipient of the free switch is going to be Tornadus Therian again, which is a very smart play from Onesie. It allows him to click U-turn, kill this Latios, and get a little bit of health back in return, meaning Moretu the Tornadus is going to be at a very high amount of health again, and it's going to be very difficult to revenge afterwards. And Tornadus is going to opt to use U-turn. It is going to finish off that Latios, and it is going to be able to switch out and activate that Regenerator ability. The first blood of the game, and indeed the season, for the Solihull Skarmoors goes to Moretu the Tornadus Therian. And we finally have a little bit of headway being made in this game. Onesie's been playing it very slowly and very carefully so far. Hopefully this allows both teams to go a little bit more aggressive. And the recipient from the free U-turn momentum is going to be R906, allowing it to activate that Regenerator and get itself back up to full health. And just shows you that Regenerator cores can be so painful to take down. And Q uses this opportunity to go into Swampert, who seems to be his catch-all answer for this Mienshao here. I'm still concerned with how much damage this Swampert took from Mienshao's U-turn last time around. That tells me this Swampert might not be running much physical bulk, and as a result it might actually be in range of a close combat from this damage point. Question is Onesie willing to risk that damage roll? Well, it looks like Onesie's willing to risk it as Mienshao fires off a close combat and takes out the Swampert from a huge amount of health. That's incredibly unheard of, and Swampert goes down! Onesie was able to read the damage roll from the U-turn earlier in the game, and that managed to inform his decision here, and that close combat was a calculated risk, but one that's paid off. Onesie appears to have a real foothold in this match so far now. And Q's going to take this opportunity to send out Iron Valiant for the first time. Now, despite being 6-4 down, Iron Valiant is one of the most threatening Pokemon in the competitive format. And as such, if Onesie does not play this carefully, he could well be on the end of a reverse sweep here. The unfortunate thing for Onesie in this situation is that this Mienshao is not running Poison Jab or Acrobatics. That means that it's going to be unable to do damage to this Iron Valiant. And as such, it might be time for Onesie to allow this Mienshao to have a long, well-earned rest. And Onesie is going to choose to stay in with Mienshao, but remarkably, it manages to attack first before this Iron Valiant. That's a rather confusing turn of events. Something tells me that Q the Costa Rican failed to consider speed creeping Mienshao in his preparation. Something that might cost him further down the line. And the recipient of that U-turn momentum is going to be Yuko the Slowking, as Iron Valiant goes for a Moonblast, taking out Slowking for the amount of health it was at, and giving Q his first knockout into Onesie's team. And finally Q manages to get on the board. He is hoping for his sake that that's the first of many. Well, Onesie's going to take this free turn to bring Moretu the Tornadus Therian back out, and crucially, that means next time it switches back out, it's basically at full health. Seeing the Tornadus Therian in front of him is not going to want to make Iron Valiant stay in and attack, so he's going to switch on out into Tadpole the Electros to take any kind of flying move. But Onesie's going to predict that and go for U-turn, getting a crucial amount of chip onto Electros and allowing him to switch out into a more favourable matchup. Any kind of chip is very crucial on this electric eel. And Onesie's going to use that U-turn momentum to bring in R906, the Mienshao, who's able to use close combat to great effect to force more progress in this match. And that's exactly what we see happen as close combat fails to land the KO on Electros as it lives on a sliver of health, meaning it's able to retaliate with a powerful Thunderbolt of its own. And Mienshao is at -1 special defense, meaning it goes down. And Q has leveled the scores to 4-4 here. The scores are not quite level. Onesie still has significant momentum in the game, and Q's defensive check to Tornadus Therian has now been placed at a very low amount of health, meaning the Tornadus Therian's ability to come in and claim a KO has just increased exponentially. You might be right about that, however, Q does have some very powerful setup threats of his own that could turn the tides of this game. Iron Valiant, Cinderace and Revavroom all get powerful setup moves that could completely sweep Onesie if used at the right time. But for now, Onesie is going to go out into Tornadus Therian to pick off whatever health this Electros has left. And Tornadus is indeed going to opt to go for a U-turn in order to reposition after taking out this Electros. And Onesie once again has the numerical advantage. And Onesie's going to choose to reposition out into Wowaka the Donphan, which makes a lot of sense considering one of its potential abilities is Sturdy, allowing it to take a hit and retaliate. As Q's going to choose to go out into Withers, the Iron Valiant, which makes a lot of sense as well. It has powerful Moonblast to punch through this Wowaka's lower special defense. Iron Valiant's going to choose to go for Moonblast to scrap with this Donphan. It doesn't take it down to Sturdy. And Donphan retaliates with a high horsepower, which takes it down into the yellow and potentially puts it within range of an Ice Shard plus one more Life Orb chip. And Donphan does get the jump on Iron Valiant with the Ice Shard. It doesn't do much damage, and it chooses to finish off this Donphan with the Aura Sphere, taking it down and leveling the score back to 3-3. It's a very back and forth game. And Iron Valiant just holds on after the Life Orb recoil, meaning Onesie does have to go out to something to finish this thing off. And the Pokemon he chooses to get the job done is the ever-reliable Maretu the Tornadus Therian, which is able to U-turn and keep momentum versus whatever Q the Costa Rican chooses to do here. And Q is going to choose to keep Withers around for one final big hit and go out into Nautiloid, the Revavroom, for the first time in this game, which is going to take this U-turn very nicely. A tiny amount of chip from Maretu and gives Onesie the chance to go out into a Pokemon to take this hit. Very crucially, Onesie did not reveal an air balloon in this situation, meaning that Arboliva is going to be able to come in and finish this thing off with an Earth Power. And you're exactly right, Arboliva's going to come out and get a little bit of leftovers chip here. And with the Terra Fire, you think that Arboliva should be able to live anything that this Revavroom wants to throw at it. And Q is going to make this Revavroom go for a last-ditch attempt to set up. It goes for Shift Gear, doubling its speed and increasing its attack power. That could be very dangerous. But Arboliva simply goes for Earth Power and takes it out from full. There was a worry that that Revavroom could have been Shuka Berry in order to try and resist the Earth Power hit. However, that didn't seem to be the case, and Arboliva is able to do massive damage and secure the KO, preventing the reverse sweep. Indeed, but Q is going to send out Iron Valiant to get its final attack off versus Satapan P here. Of course, we know that it's going to feint to Life Orb recoil regardless of what it goes for here. So, Onesie has a difficult decision to make. Stay in and go for an attack to finish it off, or try and go to something else to take the hit and keep Satapan around to take a hit afterwards. And Onesie is going to choose to let Arboliva take the hit and let Iron Valiant take itself out as it sets up the Seed Sower again, meaning that Q is now down to their last Pokemon, but it's still all to play for because the last Pokemon is a Terra Electric Cinderace, and that thing still looks mighty threatening. Onesie does appear to be in a very good position right now, but this Cinderace might well be running the perfect combination of moves to take out Ursaluna, Tornadus, survive a hit, and take out Arboliva, so it's still all to play for. And Karlak the Cinderace comes out for the final time, as it's all down to this. Does Q Cinderace have what it takes to finish off Onesie's team? And Q the Costa Rican wastes no time at all in opting to terrestrialize Cinderace into an electric type, allowing it to hit Tornadus Therian for super effective damage after the fact. And it chooses to go for the Terra Blast, which should have enough damage to take out Arboliva here. And it does! Satapan has been a thorn in Q the Costa Rican's side all match, but it does finally kick the bucket here. Arboliva has certainly done its job in this match. Onesie has gotten so much mileage out of that Pokemon. And the Pokemon that Onesie is going to choose to try and finish off this Cinderace is going to be Utsu P, the Ursaluna Blood Moon. Now this Cinderace might well have the high jump kick here, and if it does, there is every chance it might well take out Ursaluna. So this game still hangs in the balance. Does Q Cinderace have the high jump kick? It doesn't! And it chooses to go for Pyro Ball, doing about 40%, and Ursaluna responds with an Earth Power in kind, and takes out Karlak the Cinderace. meaning that the Solihull Skarmoors get back on the board after being demolished last week, 6-0 by Iron Boffin. And that's the final score, ladies and gentlemen. Solihull Skarmoors 2, Chicago Dragapults 0. Lance, what a game we've just witnessed! That was certainly a more enjoyable watch than last week's debacle. Onesie's finally pulled his finger out and started to play like an actual human. Better sooner rather than later, I guess. Yeah, it certainly does put him on the board now. He might still be at -4 differential after last week's loss, but at least he's got a W. I just hope he's able to kick on from here. As a friend of the Academy, it wouldn't do him well to keep performing badly now, would it? No, it would not. But next week he's got a different kind of test. He's up against Freedomion and the Welshions, a very difficult team, including a Deoxys Speed and a Sylveon, both of which are Pokemon that Onesie's used to great effect in the past. It's one thing to be able to pilot a Pokemon very well. It's another thing to be able to defeat a Pokemon. I think that's a problem for next week. For now, I think he deserves to revel in that victory, don't you? Reveling in a victory is for the weak who do not experience them on a regular basis. Oh, come on, Lance. I know you reveled in that victory versus champion Cynthia at the Pokemon World Tournament last year. That was a different situation. Well, whether it was a different situation or not, Onesie certainly, in my eyes anyway, has earned the right to celebrate. But that's going to be it from us here today. I have been Raihan, this has been my co-commentator Lance, and that's it from us. So, until next week, enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.